Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another F1 video for today, man. Shout out to my boy Aldis. Hope I'm saying his name right. My apologies. Also to Sub, who did recommend this video. But we are going to check out why Alan Prost is the most underappreciated driver in F1 history. Now, very interested about this because I never really thought of Alan Prost as underappreciated. I mean, he's a multiple time champ, obviously with the great battles he had with Senna. One of top drivers of all time, a lot of people say. But underappreciated. I never really thought about that. But we are gonna see what's talking about. As always, hope you guys are doing good and amazing. Don't forget to like the video, sub as well as always to your channel if you are new. And if you like the content, just sub. But without further ado, let's go and get started. Any news? I think the only news that Christian Horner said, I think regarding Mercedes, like, even though they had like the upgrades, it was still like 23 seconds behind us. Damn. But anyway, he ain't lying. Let's get straight ahead with the video.
When I've talked about great F1 drivers on my channel in the past, I've always done it from the angle of how good were they in their prime. When I think of Alain Prost, however, that is not the story that I wanted to tell. When I think of Prost, I've always felt that despite the enormous amount of success that he achieved, he's probably the only driver whose greatness feels like it's eclipsed by how underrated and more so underappreciated he still is as a driver. But why is that? How can a four-time world champion who left F1 with nothing left to prove feel underappreciated amongst some of the greatest F1 drivers of all time?
Again, I love that McLaren car, dude. I love that McLaren car. I don't care. To me, that's probably the best looking car, like F1 car in history. I don't know why. It's not even like the livery, really. I mean, the livery it's kind of basic, you know what I mean, compared to like the past we have seen. But I don't know, man. Just that McLaren car. I was saying it yesterday, man.
Alain Prost raced in F1 for 13 years between 1980 and 1993 with a one-season sabbatical in 1992. When I went back and looked throughout his career, you get reminded that this man pretty much drove for every single iconic F1 team at the time, and during a period when they were
McLaren,
all capable of winning
Williams,
races.
Ferrari.
Alain Prost was a serial winner in junior single-seaters, even doing the double in 1979 by winning the European Formula 3 and also the French Formula 3 championship.
My boy came in a winner.
He won all 7 races during that season. That same year, McLaren actually offered Prost the chance to make his F1 debut and to race in the last race of the season at the US Grand Prix. But Prost said no. That should tell you everything you need to know about his approach to racing. Most young drivers would have jumped at the chance to get into a decent car to make their F1 debut, even if the circumstances of doing so at the last minute and at the final race of the season might not be right. But that was not Alain Prost. He was meticulous about his racing, never doing something out of the blue or without the right preparation.
Makes sense.
His first taste of F1 did eventually come with McLaren during an end-of-year test at Paul Ricard.
It makes sense because, like, why would I just hop into a car I barely know anything about the car, the team, stuff like that. So when we just go into a car, I probably drove in once, practice and qualifying, and that's really it. So what, two times probably, and we go straight to a race. Now that I do think about it, I'm good. Let me, give me the whole full preseason stuff. Like, let me actually, rock with it.
McLaren team principal Teddy Mayer watched Prost for all but 10 laps before he ran to his car to get a contract for him to sign.
That's great. That's
he
greatness.
Would make his F1 debut for McLaren in 1980, and despite having a 2-year contract, he would leave at the end of his rookie season for Renault, where he would spend 3 years that were chaotic, toxic, and very French, to say the least. He still stayed on good terms with McLaren, however, and so in 1984, he returned to the now Ron Dennis run outfit, where he would stay for the next 6 years, winning 3 Drivers' Championships in the process.
3 in 6 years
Prost
is good.
would then move to Ferrari in 1990, where he would be for less than 2 seasons, as the following year, he was fired with just 1 race to go at the end of 1991.
That's crazy.
This was so late in the season that there wasn't any competitive seats available for him to step into for 92. And so after taking a year out, he returned for 1993 with Williams at their absolute zenith, immediately winning the championship before calling it a day as a 4-time world champion, and at the time having more Grand Prix wins with 51 than any other driver in F1 history.
So my boy took a break, came back and won, and then retired. That man, Alain Prost. That's greatness.
One of my favorite unofficial Prost statistic is that if the modern point system with 25 for the winner going down to 10th place was used throughout all of F1 history, Alain Prost would have actually been a 7-time world champion, only tied with Lewis Hamilton.
That's crazy.
As Michael Schumacher would have only had 6. And he also would have gone throughout his entire F1 career having never been beaten by a single teammate. I'll just let that one sink in for a minute, because I find it interesting how a different point system changes our perception and changes the history
of so many
driver.
drivers.
But for them, it doesn't make a difference. They get in and race regardless of the point system, and they're at the mercy of what it is at the time that they're racing. There is something else about Prost that doesn't get talked about enough. How many times as fans have we heard that judging drivers in different cars is very difficult because the cars themselves are the biggest differentiator in speed? That means that the only way to really judge drivers is by what they do in the same car and in the same team. Apart from his weaker teammates who are still multiple-time Grand Prix winners like John Watson and René Arnoux, Alain Prost spent 2 seasons with 3-time world champion Niki Lauda, 1 season with 1982 world champion Keke Rosberg, 2 seasons with 3-time world champion Ayrton Senna, 1 season with future 1992 world champion Nigel Mansell, 2 seasons with Jean Alesi, who at the time was being touted as a future world champion, and then finally 1 season with future 1996 world champion Damon Hill.
That's crazy. My man was teammates with champions. Niki Lauda, Rosberg, Senna, Nigel, not Alesi, and Damon Hill. My guy was constantly around greatness. And guess what? My boy Alain Prost was still prevailing. That's amazing. That's amazing. And it's actually really, really cool as well. Like, that's cool to me. That's awesome.
No one.
Very, very interesting.
No one has ever in the history of Formula 1 had to go up against a collection of more World Championship caliber drivers in the same car as Alain Prost.
My guy was holding his own.
That alone is an achievement in itself. And if you're wondering, out of all of those seasons, how many times he lost to all of those World Championship caliber teammates?
I think like once or twice, right? Yeah.
Once in 1984 to Niki Lauda, and once in 1988 to Ayrton Senna.
Yeah.
On both occasions with those drivers, going on to win the Drivers' Championship, with Prost runner-up both times, a combined 3.5 points behind Lauda and Senna.
He was on the ass.
2 losing seasons.
He was on the ass.
Yes, Prost had great cars throughout his career, but never forget the caliber of talent that he also had to beat in equal cars. There is so much more that I could talk about when it comes to Prost, because I haven't even scratched the surface when it comes to his career, but that's not really what this video is about. Now, whilst calling a driver who's achieved so much underrated might sound like an exaggeration, I think underappreciated is the way I've always felt about Prost. Now, partly, I actually think it comes down to the way he went about racing. He wasn't like a Mansell, or to give a modern example, like a Verstappen, these showman-like drivers who are known for their electric raw speed and then some iconic overtakes, which really just generated this feeling that you couldn't take your eyes off these drivers. Prost just didn't have that flamboyance. His entire philosophy of racing was focusing all of his energy for the Sunday and not really bothering as much to go all out on the Saturday with raw speed. Now, whilst that brought him a lot of success, I don't think it brought him a lot of fans. But that image problem, which I think lies at the heart of what I'm talking about, more than anything else was made worse by his portrayal in the Senna documentary in 2010.
Oh yeah, they were saying, I ain't watched the movie yet, but they were saying that Prost, is he a Prost or Senna, or like they look bad in that. I probably shouldn't have paused. I probably should just let Blake explain it to us.
I will say right from the outset that the Senna movie is probably the best F1 documentary that I've ever seen. It is not perfect by a long way, which we're going to get into, but for me, from some of the filmmaking to the balance that it had between the racing side and the human side as well with a character like Senna, it made it a really enjoyable film to watch. It was both a commercial and critical success as well, winning awards for Best Documentary at both the Sundance Film Festival and also the BAFTAs.
That's
Top
cool.
Gear famously also championed the documentary and had an amazing segment covering Senna, and even famous film critics like Mark Kermode, who admitted to having absolutely zero interest in Formula One, said it was a must-watch.
A brilliant sports documentary should make you think about questions of people, personality, religion, ethics, even if you don't care about the sport. I don't really want to ever see a motorcycle race. I don't ever want to see a Formula One race. Both TT3D Closer to the Edge and Senna are
At least he's
essential
honest.
viewing this year.
Now, in the Drive to Survive era, having a narrative, even if it doesn't fully represent reality, almost seems normal. Heroes and villains, that's what sells, and in the end, it's not reality that defines them, it's the people writing and editing the show. The Senna movie already had a hero. I mean, his name was on the cover, but they needed a villain for their story, and Prost was it.
Yeah.
The movie played heavily into painting Alain Prost as the political teammate that had everyone on his side, and that Senna was entirely the victim and for the most part, blameless.
Yeah.
Now, there is always truth to both sides, but it accentuated the things that Prost did wrong, whilst glossing over and in some cases, ignoring the things that Senna also did to provoke and fuel the toxicity within the team. Ayrton Senna was not just a racing hero. In Brazil, he was a cultural phenomenon. When he died, his legacy became almost mythical to an extent.
They treat that guy like
Because you
freaking
can't
God.
tell the Senna story without Prost, and you can't tell the Prost story without Senna. Both drivers are elevated because of the other. In terms of public perception, you literally can't win against a driver like Senna. And I think the movie took liberties and framed Prost in a way in which, at the time, not only painted him to be someone he's not, but also subsequently hurt his F1 legacy.
That's lame.
When people talk Prost-Senna, it too often turns into a Prost versus Senna debate, which I think just always does more to take away from each driver than it does to add. Great rivalries make great drivers, but in the case of Prost, regardless of who you think was better, it should never be used to undermine or take away from the greatness of a driver like Prost.
Right.
I wanted to make this video because when I think of Alain Prost, this is always the first thing that comes to my head. When you compare the buzz that exists around drivers like Hamilton, Schumacher, Senna, despite the fact that his career and achievements can rival any of those drivers, it doesn't feel like he quite has that same level of admiration, fandom, or even respect. Now, I'm sure that there are many reasons for that, some that were self-inflicted and some that were not. But his image in the media perpetuated by things like the Senna documentary has always stuck with me. It's not the only reason, of course, but it is a big one, and why for me, he is still the most underappreciated driver that I have ever seen.
That was amazing. That was very, very good. Very, very good. Shout out to my boy August. I will say regarding the Alan Prost stuff, how they kind of used him in that movie, it kind of sucks because, like he said, they treat him as though he was like a bad guy to a degree. And now, you know, some people talk about Prost, are like, no, no, I don't like Alan Prost because he did this and that to Senna and stuff like that. I think like what you said, we should praise both drivers. Both drivers were freaking amazing, absolutely terrific at what they did. Prost and then we're going, and Prost was just he's just a racer. He just wanted to race. That was it. Just wanted to race. It wasn't really showable and stuff like that, but he was getting the job done. He was beating freaking great teammates, winning championships. I mean, that's now I can kind of see why he is underappreciated because he wasn't like all flashy like the other stuff like that. You know what, man? Imagine we had like a drive to if we had like a drive to survive for like the 80s and 90s. Oh my god, that would have been crazy. That would have been pretty cool. But very, very much enjoyed the video. As always, hope you guys did enjoy it. Don't forget to like the video and sub as well as always. You guys let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Love to hear, see about that. Talk to you guys later, man. Peace.